Alright, this is Thor. But think again, cause this is Thor published by IDW. This is a hardcover collection that has got the first bunch of issues of this series. And, well, it's Thor. Except for he is a skeleton. I'm going to be flipping through this and I'm going to talk about it from a weird perspective. I'm going to talk about if it can be read as being Marvel's Thor. First up, this series is by Simon Walters. He is the writer and the artist for this book. And of course, he had one of like the most definitive runs on Marvel's Thor. His run and Stanley Lee and Jack Quimby's run, they are considered like the top tier ones. The best runs on Thor ever. Though personally, I would also throw in Stan Jurgensen as well. So we have got a classic Thor writer and a classic Thor artist writing and drawing a Thor comic for another company. We kick off, we've got an introduction here by Simon Walters talking about how this series came to be, why he got the idea for it, and we got two doodles here of this version of Thor. And obviously, it kind of goes without saying, but this is much better than Marvel's current Thor comics. I didn't think Thor has had a good run since Jurgensen, really. The interesting thing about this, and how I'm going to be coming at it, this way, that this is like Thor's version of Black Knight Returns, the Batman story. Because what has happened is all of Fairyland, it has like fell to ruin, it's been destroyed, and Thor, he has been missing for a while, presumed dead. This first issue though is probably the weakest issue, honestly. Because, well, Thor, he is barely in it. We open up with this bit though, where we see what happened. We see Thor fighting the evil serpent god. But I definitely can see this first issue rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, because the focus is on a Smurf from Fairyland. A Smurfette who is like the deadliest assassin in all of Fairyland, and she seems written to be overly brilliant. She has got a Smurf husband who stays at home and looks after their Smurf daughter, while the Smurfette does all the work. But stick with it, cause it's a bit of a bait and switch. She turns out to not be that important. She's just like a means to an end. She has been hired by this fella to go and kill someone. And then she goes to the pub to recruit like a bunch of trolls and orcs and norks and stuff like that to come with her on a mission. And she says that they can steal all the treasure and that. Of course, whenever one of them tries to revolt or stage a mutiny against her, she owns them. But what she didn't know was she has been hired to go and kill Thor. That's right, he is alive. And he has been trapped and held prisoner for years or decades or centuries or whatever. And he's also a skeleton now. This is the end of issue 1. As I said, he's barely in it, really. Just at the end here, and that little bit at the start where we saw what happened. So Thor, he is alive, and he's just been locked away for ages, and he wakes up, and then he goes to town on all these losers. This ain't your mum's Thor. This Thor, he is brutal. This Thor, he would not get fat and play Fortnite. It's all very bloody stuff. It's great, and he's even got his fucking hammer. And then when Smurfette finally tries to do something, she throws a knife at him. Well, he just like twats it away, and it ricochets and lands on her heart and kills her. And that's it for her. She's dead now. And now it's just a Thor story. It's just all about Thor from this point on. But the question I'm running with is, can you pretend that this is just Marvel's Thor? The answer is, yeah, you bloody can. Outside of the designs, the main difference would be some of the spellings are the traditional spellings. Marvel, they sometimes Americanized a few names, like they replaced a U with an E, or they just didn't bother with umlauts. Thor is the main character in this, and we do have a significant event that happened off-panel, backstory, that can justify why he isn't quite the same character, why he isn't the big, fantastical, bombastic superhero Thor. In this, he's older, he's withered, he's bitter, he's cynical. As I said, this is just like Thor's version of Black Knight Returns. And this whole thing, it does somewhat fit into Marvel's fairyland mythology. Because in Thor, issue 300, although I think it was actually issue 298 or 297, it told us how fairyland is like on a cycle. It goes through the same cycle every time, where at the end it is destroyed by the evil serpent god. We saw it play out a few times in Thor's comics. And with this, you can just say, well, it's that cycle again, it's another run through it. Except maybe this time the cycle, it got to the end and it has stopped. Or maybe it's just taking its sweet time to get back to the start, to reset. This is a really good story though. Great art, great writing. 4 comics in it. I'll end this here actually. I won't give it all away. This is a recommend. He fights a bunch of trolls and stuff, and he tries to learn what has happened to Fairyland and all his friends, and this is great. It's great that there are better Thor comics by a classic Thor creator, and they're not even Marvel comics. It's definitely worth a look if you are a fan of Thor and you really hate the Thor who is just like a big idiot who always gets his arse kicked, and he's like consistently nerfed and made out to be ineffectual. There's 2 collections. This is volume 1 and this is volume 2 here. Need dust jackets for either, which is probably because IDW are so financially bankrupt they couldn't afford dust jackets. I might cover volume 2 a bit later on. I get more into the whole thing really, rather than just talking about how you can pretend that it's Marvel 4. I rate volume 1 7 thumbs up.